What up, though, Lions fans? We are back. It's your boy, Motor City Don P, MCDP in the building. And one thing that's always for sure is that the Motor City Cats back at it. Came to give you stats, not static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And we got some things to talk about today. On the heels of this being the Bears week, we're going to be discussing some more things. I know we did the preview show on Wednesday, but this Friday, of course, we can't not talk about the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears coming up. What up, though? Here's Johnny. What up, though? Just a fan. I appreciate you, just a fan. And that just reminds me to remind all of you to make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. If you're talking, you're subscribed. If you would like to talk, then subscribe. It only takes a minute. It takes less than a minute for you to actually subscribe, but once you've been a subscriber for a minute, then you can feel free to talk to us in the chat, and I'll address your comments and all of these things. Make sure you share the stream. Make sure you let everybody know what is going on around here this lovely, lovely, lovely Friday morning for me, and Friday evening for all of you out there in Detroit and in the United States. So yes, we do have some good news to talk about today. Obviously, you guys have probably already heard the news because the news came out yesterday, but wasn't live yesterday, so I didn't really address it. But some good injury news the Detroit Lions have received is that David Montgomery, after seeking three opinions, okay, and there was some speculation about, did he just go and seek the opinions of doctors until somebody told him what he wanted to hear? Something like Boobie Miles. What you mean I can't play football? What you mean I can't play football? No, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Right? It's Boobie Miles. If you don't know, you should know. If you do know, you know. That wasn't the case. So basically what happened, Dan Campbell said that he got two opinions that said that he would be good to go. But of course, Dan Campbell also threw some cold water on that by saying that even if he's good to go as far as what the doctors have said, you kind of have to look at the situation that you're in to see if you're going to put him in there. I get it. You know, we understand, you know, Dan Campbell is all about the players. He's all about the long-term health of the players, and I cannot disagree with him about any of that. So I won't even attempt to do so. Let's see. We got some things happening over here in the chat. Dr. Daniel Campbellson. Brett DeWitt says, after Bears, welcome to the Gibbs effect. Yeah. So we're going to get into all of that, man. Gibbs probably going to have a monster game as the lead back. And I keep saying this. We have to look back to last year when Monty was out and Gibbs went off for 152 yards against the Raiders. Now, people might say, well, it's the Raiders and their defense isn't that good. Wasn't that good. The Bears defense isn't great either. The Bears, for all intents and purposes, have checked out on the season. Obviously, we've seen the video of DJ Moore being interviewed at his locker, talking about the offseason and talking about he's thinking about vacation. One of the things that sticks out about that is DJ Moore has been being used as a running back, Caleb Williams has come out multiple times saying that's my guy. I'm going to throw it to my guy. But he wasn't talking about DJ Moore. He was talking about Rome Odunze. So obviously you know that both Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams are rookies. This is the first time in I don't know how long, a very, very long time, that a team has picked a rookie quarterback and a rookie wide receiver in the first round. So it's been a very long time since this has happened. But this is what happened. They came in together, and obviously they've been working on their chemistry. What up, though, Lone Spoon? And I feel like DJ Moore is the odd man out. DJ Moore will be a Chicago Bear next year, won't be a Chicago Bear next year. That's all up for debate. But you have to admit that the things that have happened with DJ Moore this season do not look particularly good. Optically, if we're talking about the optics of the situation, we had DJ Moore walking off the field during a play. Now, it looked in the video as though he was limping. They came out and said afterwards that he sustained some sort of injury. Didn't miss any time. I don't know. I believe he came back in the game. So I feel like his feelings were injured as far as the frustration. When you got a quarterback running around just not throwing the ball because, and I've talked about this before, and I love when we play the Bears so I can talk about this because I could talk about this forever. Caleb Williams, as I said when Easy was on the show, counts Mississippi's. Here's Johnny says we got a bunch of mad rabid dogs, aka Lawrence Taylor's, on the Lions. We do, but a lot of them are injured. That's the problem for us. But I feel like Caleb Williams counts Mississippi's and he waits for the play to break down because it just it's inexplicable the amount of time that Caleb Williams holds on to the football. And it's not an every down thing, but it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. He's just back there like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4. All right, go. And then he just starts running around and, with his herky-jerky style of whatever. It looks gross. But this is like something that he covets, man. It's something that he seems to really enjoy. His offensive line is trash. It's terrible. 100%. And I said this. I said that Caleb Williams came into a situation that I don't think any other rookie quarterback has come into. Because when you look at a rookie quarterback go into a situation, they usually have nothing around them. Look at Trevor Lawrence. When he came into the league, he didn't have weapons. It's always about, okay, now we got to get the guy weapons. Justin Herbert came into a situation where he did have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, but we know Mike Williams wasn't able to stay on the field, and Keenan Allen has dealt with a lot of injuries, and we'll talk about Keenan Allen in a little bit. But it was a situation where, say what you will about DeAndre Swift, and I've said plenty about DeAndre Swift, but the thing that I did say last year about him was that he seemed to have been reinvigorated while going back home to Philadelphia. He played the 1 year in Philadelphia, and while they didn't bring him back, they still helped him by putting him behind a fantastic offensive line, and he was able to sleep in his own bed and see friends and all these things. But you had to understand, just like what Saquon Barkley is doing, it's an extension of what DeAndre Swift was able to do last season, but Saquon is just a much better back than DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is a former Detroit Lion. Deuce Staley got in his ass, on Hard Knocks about finishing runs. He just didn't have the mentality to be an NFL running back. And obviously he's able to be a scat back, but running between the tackles and all these things is not going to be his thing. He's not Jahmyr Gibbs. While Jahmyr Gibbs looks like he would be a scat back, Jahmyr Gibbs has that dog in him. If Deuce Staley was coaching Jahmyr Gibbs, you would have never seen that hard knock situation. He never would have been screaming and yelling at him and all these things. So let's see what are DeAndre Swift's stats. Okay, DeAndre Swift has 821 yards. Now, that's a good thing here. He's got 2 seasons now where he has surpassed everything that he did in Detroit. Okay, in Detroit, he never had more than 650 yards in a season. Last season, he had 1,000 yards in Philly. This season so far, he has 821 yards, but he's only averaging 3.9 yards a carry. While that's not terrible, you'd never look at someone averaging less than 4 yards per carry as a bell cow back, as a dominant back, or whatever the case may be. He's averaging 3.9, and on the flip side, Jahmyr Gibbs is averaging 5.7. Okay, so and he's got 35 receptions. I don't see his receiving yards though. Yeah, it just says he's got 35 receptions, so he probably has. On 35 receptions, I'm pretty sure he has more than 1,000 all-purpose yards this season. Let me see what you guys are saying before I continue. All right, Justin Fan says Caleb Williams counts time to apply nail polish to fingers. 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, not Mississippi's. Okay. All right, cool. That makes more sense. And it's funny that you should mention that, but I'll get back to DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift he's decent back. You could even say he's a good back. Like I said, I think he resurrected his career in Philly. And then he parlayed that into a big payday going to Chicago. And he's probably reinvigorated in Chicago as well because he's playing in the division with the Detroit Lions. And I don't know, he probably has some chip on his shoulder. He probably feels like we threw him away and we didn't want him and we drafted his replacement in Jahmyr Gibbs. But my guy, you have no right to be angry about anything that happened in the Detroit Lions. That's like if I have a job and I'm constantly 30 minutes late to work and then they decided to fire me because I'm always 30 minutes late to work, I can't get upset and be like, oh, they did me dirty, blah, 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 blah. You were late constantly and consistently. We can't continue to have you employed, right? So on the flip side, DeAndre Swift, injured constantly and consistently, never available. I mean, DeAndre Swift's not getting injured last season and this season is a stark contrast to everything that he did while he was in Detroit. You are talking about game number 1, takes a hit, dealing with his shoulder and ankle injuries for the rest of the entire season. Right? Game number 1, he gets dinged. Or game number 2, he gets dinged. It's always an early game, and then he deals with that injury for the rest of the season. So, like I said, there must have been something in the water in Philly that he was able to drink it every day, and it strengthened his bones and his ligaments. So then he comes back, and he's being now productive for 2 straight seasons. He's probably, I mean, you got 3 games left. He's at 821 yards. It's likely he goes over 1,000 yards this season. Again, back-to-back seasons after never going too much more than halfway to 1,000 yards with the Detroit Lions. So anyway, that's a DeAndre Swift. You're getting a 1,000-yard back. You're getting a Keenan Allen who has notoriously been a Lions killer. He's got crazy numbers against the Detroit Lions. You got DJ Moore, who's dynamic as a talent, but, maybe his attitude ain't great. He's done a lot of losing, right, in his career, going from the Panthers, which is a losing organization, while he was there, and then going to the Bears, which has been a complete dumpster fire and a masterclass in dysfunction. And then you have Cole Kmet, who very good tight end. So he has all the weapons, and then he was supposed to have a defense. And this is why Nick Wright is a crazy, take monger who just tries to say the craziest things. But him picking the Chicago Bears before the season started to win the Super Bowl, on paper, when you looked at it, wasn't as crazy as it sounds now, the way that it turns out. On paper, this looked like a great team. This looked like a great situation for Caleb Williams to come into. However, on paper is not the way you play the game of NFL football or even college football for that matter. So you have to play the games. You have to let the season play out. And what happened when the season played out? They started off 4-2. This division was the greatest division since sliced bread. I mean, it still is. It still is. It's a historically good division. No division has ever won as much as this division has won from its top three teams in ever. Their actual ever. As Easy says, in everdom, right? It's never happened before. This is a historically good NFC North, right? You have two teams at 12-2 after 14 games of a season, and you've got one team at 10-4. Okay? Like 12-2, 10-4. The top three teams in the league have lost a combined 8 games. Okay? And have won a combined 34. That doesn't happen. It just doesn't. Which sucks for the Detroit Lions because we got to win out to make sure that we get that 1 seed. But this is something that's achievable. Anyway, so when you look at the Bears situation, it looked great on paper, the beginning of the season. But I'm going to tell you when I knew that this team was not going to do anything. Are you guys ready for this? Let me know. Justin Fan says Swift is fast, but he's so soft. He is very soft. Lone Spoon says, yes, we threw him away, and I'm glad we did. But see, I feel like threw away is negative. I feel like it was very warranted. You didn't do anything in Detroit. You just had promise, and this is what they saw out of you coming from Georgia. You had promise. You had potential. You didn't have production. Not enough. You weren't on the field enough. So this is a production league, and if it's the best ability is availability. And if you're not available, teams will move on. Here's Johnny says Swift lost me at the 22 Lions versus the Dolphins game. He was soft and lost us that game and a chance for the playoffs. I feel you. Taylor May says Swift is from Philly, so he got some home cooking last season. Yeah, that's what I was saying. He was able to sleep in his own bed and be around friends and family, and whatever the case, that reinvigorated him. Maybe it rekindled his love for the game because again, he's now in Philly, you have to be tougher than you have to be in Detroit because your games are outside. and your games are not even where they play the games. I'm not even going to say that because we're going to talk about some of that today as well. He had to save face, right? He couldn't be in Philly, from Philly, in Philly, playing soft like he played in Detroit, right? Only the true fans of his in Philly were watching his play in Detroit. And those were the people who knew him personally, and those were the people he could explain the things away to. Oh, man, shoot. You know, you saw that hit when I landed. Oh, man, shoot, that John, that John, you know what I mean? If you know, John. That John hurt, bro. I was like, man, I went to the doctor, bro. He put that tape on me. He was like, man, it's gonna be a while before that heal up. That John was crazy. Yeah, he can explain that away to the people that he knows in Philadelphia. But when he is on that stage in Philly, at the Link, right? When he is on that stage, then he can't explain anything away. And those people are all from Philly. And those people are going to be like, bruh, why are you so soft? Like, you are now representing not just the Philadelphia Eagles, but the city of Philadelphia. So he couldn't do that there. And then I guess the mindset was, okay, now I parlayed that somebody paid me. I guess I have to give them what they paid for. Maybe he just doesn't like Detroit and didn't want to be in Detroit. But then again, the Chicago thing, like I said, great situation on paper. Teleman says also tougher media markets in both Philly and Chicago than Detroit is. I mean, nobody cares about the Chicago media market. I get it, but you know, I get it. Lone Spoon says, I don't buy that home cooking thing. DPJ is from Detroit, and look how that is turning out. I believe you are never a hero in your hometown. So the DPJ thing, and this is one thing that I talked about a lot during the offseason, is I don't understand the DPJ thing. I really don't. Especially being on a good Detroit Lions team. Like, after you were on the team when they went to the NFC Championship game, right? You got acquired at the deadline. So you saw the ceiling for this football team, and that ceiling is Super Bowl. Okay? Super Bowl champions. That's the highest ceiling any team can have. And not every team, it's not 32 teams that have that ceiling every season. So you understood that, especially coming from Cleveland, having the opportunity to leave a bad situation and come to a good situation and be at home and be in front of you. I don't know, bro. That DPJ thing is still a mystery to me. Maybe, and the only thing I can say is that he just couldn't deal with the pressure of being at home. And that's what it is. But DeAndre Swift last year was clearly a different person. Clearly. Like I said, he never got over 650 yards in Detroit. Or is it, if I'm, a little bit off, let's say 680, just to give me some wiggle room, right? But he never got 700. He never got like close to 1,000 yards in Detroit. So he never went through a season where he wasn't missing multiple games or multiple plays because he was nicked and bruised. In Philly, he was fine. You know what I'm saying? He was he was fine. He was okay. He went off, Here's Johnny says, heard DPJ wants to be a medical doctor. That's fine. That's fine. But what he was in Cleveland was a dog. What he is in Detroit is a practice squad player that can't crack the roster. That's, you know what I mean? And I don't understand it. I really don't. Like I said, maybe the pressure was too great for him, being in front of where he's at. Guys, do me a favor. We got more viewers than we got likes. So make sure you smash that like button for me, please. If you don't know how to do it, I'm pretty sure you know how to do it, but just close the chat, smash the like button, and reopen the chat. Let's get those likes up. Let's get this algorithm, get me out in front of people. We're on our race to 1,000 subscribers. So let's talk about a little bit of the Chicago media and the Detroit Lions and their assessment of things. I was watching the Chicago Bears podcast yesterday, more so listening to it. They think that the win streak stops here. The losing streak, stops here. And that they will win this game on Sunday. Now, are they confident that they can win the game on Sunday? Absolutely not. They still believe that the Detroit Lions are a better team than the Chicago Bears, even with all of the injuries. And also, they know that the Detroit Lions need the game, and the Bears do not need the game. And they had someone on yesterday from 97 The Ticket to ask them about Ben Johnson and should they hire him as a head coach and so on and so forth. So really, it is they know they've conceded that the Detroit Lions will beat the Chicago Bears, but obviously they want to make sure that they put up a fight. Listening to it. So Lone Spoon, I do listen to the Bears podcast, but as I said before, it's just because I like to hear their misery. And then also I'm informed about an NFC North opponent. I try to do it for, I just can't do it for the Packers. I've done it for the Vikings from time to time. Sometimes I watch Tom Grassi crash out because it's funny. That's all. But it's the Bears is most accessible to me, I guess. So Brent DeWitt says, I'm with you on the DPJ thing. I kept waiting to see all those amazing catches I saw him make at Michigan. Sad it never happened. Yeah, I don't, bro. What up, though, Celine 313? Thomas Brown doesn't need the W, TaylorMade. Thomas Brown, whether he gets the W or not, is not going to be retained as a head coach. They don't want him. You know, like the media doesn't want. They understand. He said, "I hear you. I just can't listen to a Bears podcast. I'm in my car a lot. I drive." So once I've listened to all the Lions podcasts that I'm going to listen to, then, you know, I listen to the Bears every now and, well, let's say more so now because we're playing the Bears this week than I do any other week. I prefer to just listen to all of the ones that I care to listen to. There are ones that I don't care to listen to for obvious reasons. However, you know, that's what happens. So it's not a daily thing. You know, sometimes if they're having a really miserable time, like most weeks, like I'll try to tune in and catch all the tears and drink the smoothie that I make of the Bears' misery and tears. But that's pretty much it. But as far as Thomas Brown, here's the thing with Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown was put into an impossible situation, and anybody that's looking to hire Thomas Brown, they're not going to hire him as a head coach, because as a head coach, Thomas Brown doesn't know what he's doing, and it's not Thomas Brown's fault. You have to look at, there was a 3-week arc for Thomas Brown to be promoted from passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator to head coach of a team. Once you're promoted to head coach of a team, there are so many more responsibilities that you have And instead of just being focused on fixing why the Bears are starting slowly, why do they have these slow starts every single week of the season? Now you have to think about, well, you fired Matt Eberflus, and Matt Eberflus was your head coach and your defensive coordinator. Now you have to deal with Eric Washington, I think is his name, who is the defensive play caller, who's apparently calling a vanilla defense, and it's just not going well. They've got a lot of talent on that defense, but for whatever reason, it's just not coming together. They have, I understand why the run defense is not as good. It's because, as we've said on this show before, the run defense, stopping the run, defending the run, is about attitude. Yes, you have to have the talent, but when you have the talent and you still see them getting gashed, it's just the attitude, and it's not just the scheme. When we look at the Bills game, it was the scheme. Like I said, when Easy was on, they were scheming them thin, right? They were spreading them out. They were, counters and traps, and it wasn't just, we're going to run up the middle and see if you stop us, because I believe if they had done that, then we would have stopped them. Us not being able to get a punch was also part of the lethargic way that we came out. For whatever reason, I don't know how you don't get up against the Bills. Like I said, I think probably looking at the way that they performed against the Rams while they were in a trap game looking ahead to you, that just didn't sink in. I don't know. But so Thomas Brown was in an impossible situation, right? He's got to worry about offense, defense, special teams. He's got to worry about scheduling the practices. He's got to worry about everybody else doing their job so that he can, because that's his job now. So anybody that looks at him is not going to look at him as a head coach, because he's been put in a situation that no one expected him to exceed in. So he doesn't need the W. What they would look at him for is his 3 weeks where he got Caleb Williams to stop always holding on to the ball, where he put together a game plan where maybe they didn't fix the fast starts or the slow starts, but they did to an extent in the game that he got promoted to offensive coordinator with the Green Bay Packers, right? We know it was a hard-fought game the entire game, and it came down to a blocked kick to win the game for Green Bay. But that would be where Thomas Brown's resume starts to be built, is the work that he was able to do with Caleb Williams in such a short time. And this is, again, the dysfunction of the Chicago Bears. You see some improvements happening with your first overall pick quarterback, who you expected all of these things from, and you haven't been getting the things that you expected. And then you see a glimmer of hope, a glimmer of light, a glimpse of what you thought that he could be when you drafted him. And then you take that away and you make that guy the head coach. And now it's pretty much the same type of situation, So I don't think that Thomas Brown needs the W. Let's see what you guys said. Lone Spoo said, I'd listen to a Cowboys podcast before I listen to a Bears podcast. I don't know any Cowboys podcast other than Micah Parsons. Celine313 says, who's a go-to Lions pod you like? Hook us up. I'm definitely down with the heavyweights. Easy comes on the show. Not every Wednesday, but generally on Wednesdays, right? He's generally available. This Wednesday I had him on. I think the Bills Wednesday I didn't have him on because I just didn't ask him. I wanted to try to do it on Fridays, but it's just not available. So I definitely listen to those The heavyweights. I listen to Armani and Edwards because it for Armani and Edwards it comes on at 6 in the morning for me, and I'm in the car already at 6 in the morning, so I'll listen to it. Sometimes I'll tap into Big D Energy. Sometimes I listen to Lion Syndicate. Let's see, who else do I listen to on the Lions front? I think that's mostly it. That's mostly it. So, yeah, those are the ones that I would say that I listen to on a regular basis. Let's see. Brent DeWitt says Brown is in a no-win situation for sure. Here's Johnny says send AG there, not Ben J. Here's a take. Send Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson back to Allen Park. Don't let them leave. That's my take. Low Spoon says I never liked we are drafting a quarterback that we know we are going to have to develop with the defensive head coach. Yeah, I mean, it's the Bears, man. The dysfunction of the Bears, and I'm telling you, I promise you guys, the dysfunction of the Bears goes deeper than the dysfunction of the Lions. The Bears are actively dysfunctional. Actively dysfunctional. I know we have Matt Millen and we feel like that trumps everything. And in a way, maybe it did. But the Bears are actively dysfunctional. They are just, it's active, bro. Lone Spoon says, not saying that a defensive head coach can't develop a QB, just that I don't like it. A good Lions podcast is Pride of Detroit. Ooh, so Lone Spoon, I used to listen to Pride of Detroit. Ryan Matthews is my guy. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. I'm not gonna get into any mudslinging, but Ryan Matthews is my guy. I mess with Ryan. I believe they got Eric Schlitt. I think Al, the football guy, is on their show now as well. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Al is a guy that I wanted to get on the show. But it's my fault. I just haven't reached out to him. I think I said something early on when I was elsewhere, and he liked the tweet, but I haven't reached out to him. So I think he's got some new things going on with Pride of Detroit. But the defensive coach developing a quarterback is all about your quarterback's coach and your offensive coordinator. If he's able to do that, just like, whoever is in charge of Justin Fields' development is not Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is not in charge of that, but Mike Tomlin puts the correct people around you. Arthur Smith is a good offensive coordinator. Now, the style of football that Pittsburgh plays is still kind of rooted in 3 yards in a cloud of dust. But, that's Arthur Smith and whoever the quarterback coach is. So, again, I think having Matt Eberflus in there was good for your defense. It wasn't good for the overall chemistry of your team, the overall operation of your team. But at least your defense could come in and do something. Having Shane Waldron in there, not doing your due diligence on there. I mean, you still have to go back to the Jackson Smith and Jigba when he appeared on their podcast at the Super Bowl, the Bears podcast, and they asked him, what do you think of Shane Waldron? And he was like, is this live? Whew. Good luck. So you look at that, and then I think his quarterbacks coach was, I think his name is Kerry Washington or something like that, who wasn't really on that job in Seattle with Waldron. So it was very mishandled. It was very mishandled. Brent DeWitt says FPOD. Okay. What does that say? No Myco? What is that? Is that what I'm seeing? Hold on. Melco? Who's Melco? Or Myco? I don't know who that is. Oh yeah, Lions Nation Unite is a good podcast. Has Lomas, Brown, Herman, Moore, Easy and Spinny, and others, and maybe even me. Stay tuned. To be continued. I mean, I do a little bit of content, breaking news stuff, when I can. Obviously, not a lot of news breaking, and a lot of the news breaks while I'm asleep because I live in the future. So, is his name Kirby Washington? I don't know. It's yeah. I don't know what his name is. Oh, Mike. So I haven't watched it in years, bro. So I stopped watching it because, as I said, Ryan Matthews is my guy. So I don't know what's going on over there now. I like Ryan. Sometimes I interact with Ryan on Twitter. Okay, just Ryan. All right. Before I know they've expanded and all these things. I don't know what the expansion has come to because I don't watch it. I'm just saying. And again, I'm not actively throwing shade at anyone. I don't watch it. So, Chicago Bears media. Let's get into this. Again, we're talking about podcasts. The question became, the question was asked about the weather. And they were saying that, this could be an advantage for the Chicago Bears. And then one of them was like, well, Detroit is in a state called Michigan, and it's just as cold, if not colder, than Chicago. And they do have the ability to practice outside. And then they were like, are they practicing outside? I don't know. And then the other guy goes, well, if they're not practicing outside, then Dan Campbell has to be taken off of all the, coach of the year coach of the year polls and ballots and all these things. Guys, I follow the Detroit Lions, and I understand if you are a Bears podcast. Like, I don't follow the Chicago Bears. I get it. If I want to know if the Bears are practicing inside of a dome, because I know I'm going to discuss it on my podcast. It's just a quick Google search will suffice. I follow the Detroit Lions. Pictures of the Detroit Lions practicing in the elements in the snow today pop up on my Twitter feed without me asking them to. That is a colossal blunder on your part as a quote unquote media member, because they are the ones that I'm talking about. They are they're there. They're media members. Like their people are in the locker room type stuff. You should know that the Detroit Lions are practicing outside. What is even more asinine is not that it's not knowing that the Detroit Lions, who are 12-2, right? Who before all the latest injuries, people still had them as a Super Bowl favorite. Not knowing if they're practicing outside is one thing, but not just figuring that they are, right? Just assume that the Detroit Lions, headed by Dan Campbell, right? So you've said on your own, other members of this media team, that we don't know if we should hire Ben Johnson because he's not bringing Dan Campbell with him. Right? So just like the Belichick tree, you are not hiring Bill Belichick, which is why all of his coaches have failed, because the straw that stirs the drink is not Josh McDaniels. It's not Romeo Crennel. It's not Charlie Wise. It's not Matt Patricia. It's not Bill O'Brien, who actually Bill O'Brien was moderately successful in Houston when Deshaun Watson knew how to play football. But it's not any of those people. Those people are not the straws that stir the drink. The straw is Bill. Did I just forget this? Bill Belichick. That's the straw. So once Dan Campbell gets a coaching tree, which everyone feels is going to happen very soon, we'll see if it's Dan Campbell that stirs the drink. But I believe that the difference is going to be between Dan Campbell and Bill Belichick. And I don't know if Bill Belichick does this or did this. I'm going to assume that he did, because he's a great coach. And obviously he's had interactions with, he's not a great coach. He may be the greatest coach of all time. If he comes back to the NFL, he'll probably break Shula's record, which I don't know if Andy Reid will be able to catch him, because Andy Reid's got to do a lot of winning, and he does a lot of winning. But I think for about 2-3 more years, consistently double-digit wins, and I think it's actually even more than that, maybe 4 or 5 more years. So I don't know how much longer Andy Reid's going to be coaching, but I'm sure he's come across different techniques, and 100% he's done this. Dan Campbell has meetings with Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson and other coaches about situational football, about this, that, and the third thing. He is actively grooming people to go and get head coaching jobs elsewhere. While he knows that is going to be to the detriment, that may be to the detriment of his team, he also understands that when you do good, word travels. Let's listen to that. And this is something that everybody needs to remember in life. And I know most of you guys are older than me, but it's true. When you do good, word travels. When you do bad, word travels. So if you are a not so upstanding, not so honest human being, eventually word will get out. If you are not forthright, if you are doing things not in good faith, if you are negotiating, if you're hiring, anything, if you're treating people in ways that you shouldn't be, eventually it will come out. Eventually you'll get exposed. But on the flip side, if you're doing all the right things, it's going to come out. And I know that sounds negative. It's going to be it's going to be advertised, right? It's going to be advertised. So when people ask Ben Johnson on these interviews, how was it working for Dan Campbell, and his face is gonna light up, and he's just gonna gush about Dan Campbell. And AG, the same thing. And when it's time for Shep, the same thing. When it's time for Terrell Williams, the same thing. Everybody is going to have the greatest things to say about Dan Campbell, and then people are going to be like, that's where I want to go. If I'm a young, up-and-coming, well, I can't really say young, but I guess I can, right? You just finished playing football, and you want to be a head coach someday. You want to go work for Dan Campbell. And you could be a great football mind. You could be a great football player, but you want to go work for Dan Campbell because you want to develop yourself as a leader of men and all these other things. And you want to be surrounded in a culture of development and positivity and all the things that the Detroit Lions have provided. You're gonna want to go work for Dan Campbell. So this is the man who they actively, openly wondered about if his team was actually practicing outdoors. This team, as you so astutely pointed out, is located in Detroit, Michigan, the Great Lakes state, which shares a border with Canada. It touches Canada. This team, yes, they play in a dome. Is it even a second thought that this team would be traveling to Chicago and not be practicing outdoors all week? That is crazy for you to even question. That is not a question. All right. Lone Spoon says, okay, got you, DP. I'll leave it alone. Cool. Thank you. He says, I never understood the whole Detroit is a dome team. It's just as cold outside as it is anywhere else. And we do have an outside practice field. 100%. Brent DeWitt says, LOL, you don't have to throw shade. I will. POD is the most boring and stale channel on YouTube, LMFAO. Detroit Fan Man says, hey, I also follow Detroit Lions. At least we got that in common, right? Yes, Detroit Fan Man, we do have that in common. TaylorMade says, Detroit has always been a soft media market. That's a perfect example. I was talking about Chicago. That's what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about Detroit. Brent DeWitt says Scotty Montgomery's interviews are great. He sounds like a future head coach. Probably. K8 Press. Oh, I love your comments, K. He said, why do y'all want all our coaches to leave? So I don't want any of them to leave. I want AG to stay. I want Ben Johnson to stay, but it's inevitable. They're going to get head coaching interviews, and Dan Campbell is not going to hold them back. He's just not that type of guy. He is actively helping them become better coaches. It's, as I said, it's you. When you look at the team, when you look at the players that are missing and the players that have had to step in, guys coming in off of other people's practice squads, guys that were already on our practice squads, guys that were next man up, whether they were second string, third string, fourth string, guys coming in and playing as if they were starters. Obviously, the production is not going to be, you're not going to get 5 sacks in a game from AQM like you got from Hutch, right? You're not going to get that from Pascal like you got from Hutch, but you're going to have guys playing for each other, believing in the culture and understanding the coaching and the teaching and the learning that they've gotten and that they've done. It is a culture of development, right? What the Detroit Lions say here, and obviously they probably say it to other people, but what they say in this organization is that when you come into this organization, you are at point A, right? So you're trying to get from point A to point Z. Once you leave the organization, you're going to be at point Z. You're going to go through all of the alphabets, okay? And you're going to learn and you're going to develop and you're going to become something different, right? If anybody watches Dragon Ball Z, right, you're going to be in your final form when you leave here, right? You're going to be, you went into your human form or whatever you were. Now you're leaving. You're in your Super Saiyan form, right? So this is what the Detroit Lions are doing. So we don't want coaches to leave as fans, but we understand that when they do leave and they're going to be spreading the word, if you want to be a coach, if you want to get an opportunity, you need to go and work with Dan Campbell because Dan Campbell is going to get you where you're trying to go. Lone Spoon says, and I know this isn't a Detroit podcast, but All 22 is really good if you like film breakdown. Yeah, All 22 is great. And I watch All 22 more so in the off season. But once you get into the regular season and the weeks are going, and then like I'm not home a lot, so like All 22 is something you have to actually sit down and watch. You know what I mean? So these other things can be listened to. Whether you're in a car or whether you're in a grocery store or whatever you're doing, you got your earbuds, you can just listen to these. And, that's the thing. Now, I mean, I suggest that everybody listens to my podcast, but firstly watch it because, the aesthetics they're just great. I'm here, MCDP. What post did I skip? Hold on. Let me see if I skipped something from you. Or was this a recent one? So Brent DeWitt says, K, we are winning. Everyone will poach a winning formula. We will just have to improve, adapt, and overcome. No problem with MCDC leading the charge. 100%, man. 100%. Like I said, I mean, it's just a culture of development, man. And that's the thing. Everyone is here to do their job, and everyone loves to do it because that's who they bring in. They're not bringing in anybody lazy. They're not bringing anybody who doesn't fit the formula. And if you don't fit, you got to go. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Shout out O.J. Simpson. If you know, you know. If it doesn't fit, well, I guess I should say shout out Johnny Cochran. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Aubrey Pleasant acquitted. he was freed, right? He was freed of all the charges, or he was acquitted, and he got to go somewhere else. Anthony Lynn acquitted. Dre Bly acquitted. Right? It didn't fit, so we had to acquit. We had to let him go. And that's fine. John Scott Jr. acquitted. Didn't fit. Had to acquit. Justin Fan says, I like leather gloves. Leather gloves are fantastic. When it's cold, they keep the hands warm. They also keep fingerprints off of things. But I guess any gloves keep fingerprints off of things. Bruh, I don't know what's going on with Dwight Howard. I don't get into any Dwight Howard news. His news is not my kind of news. Very weird, very strange. I don't deal with Dwight Howard. Low Spoon says OJ definitely had his fingers spread when he was trying on them gloves. It doesn't fit. Look, I'm telling you, it doesn't fit. Oh my goodness. And Broncos are good too. Yeah. White Broncos. Shout out to the Chargers. By the Chargers winning that game, if the Miami Dolphins, and it's probably very, very likely, if the Miami Dolphins do not beat the San Francisco 49ers, they will be mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. The fact that the Miami Dolphins are not already mathematically eliminated is wild. But in the AFC, you have so many bad teams. Every division seems to have, let's see, you've got the AFC East, you've got Buffalo, and that's it. The Jets are bad, the Patriots are bad, the Dolphins are bad. How the Dolphins are in the AFC East is very weird to me, right? All of the AFC East teams are up north, and then you have this one team in Florida. I feel like they should be in the AFC South. And I feel like Indianapolis should be in the AFC East. I think they should change that, right? All right. So then you have the AFC South. Let's go to the AFC South. Houston's not great, but they're going to win the division. Jacksonville sucks. Indianapolis sucks. Tennessee sucks. So that's two divisions that I just named you where you've got the top team and the rest of the three suck. Then you have the AFC West. The AFC West is the most competitive division in the AFC. It's like the NFC North. However, it's just not to that extent. So you've got the Kansas City Chiefs, who have already locked up the division. You've got the Denver Broncos and the I'm trying not to call them San Diego, the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay. So you've got those two teams who are both decent, who are both probably going to make the playoffs, especially out of the AFC because the other divisions are so garbage. And then you got the Raiders who are doing nothing. So then when you go to the AFC North, you've got two teams that are going to make the playoffs. You've got a third team that, because everyone else is so terrible, might. Okay, so you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens at the top of the division, and then you've got the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns. Right? So because of all of the suctitude I have just laid out for you, the Miami Dolphins are not mathematically eliminated yet, which is crazy. It is crazy how bad the AFC is. Lone Spoon says it's just as bad as when the Bucs was in the NFC Central. Yeah, if it was, I get why that sucks. And that's why they made the division, now they have the four divisions. But it's just flip them, man. Indianapolis gets snow, right? Am I wrong about this? Does Indianapolis not get snow? So Indianapolis gets snow. You can't call it South, right? Tennessee gets snow. Tennessee is South, but Tennessee only gets snow in the mountains, right? It doesn't just get snow. Indianapolis gets snow. Put them in the freaking NFC North or the AFC East and take out. Yeah, they just need so here's the thing as well. And this is a different discussion. It's actually not fair for the Miami Dolphins to be in the AFC East. Because whenever they go on the road in December and January, they are going from South Beach, Florida, where it is 70 and sunny, to New Jersey, to Buffalo, New York, and to Boston, Massachusetts. How does that make any sense? If I was if I was the Miami Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, I would be petitioning every single year, and I would be talking about competitive disadvantage to be playing in the AFC East. Put Indianapolis in the AFC East and put Miami Dolphins in the AFC South. Because then Miami Dolphins will have to travel to Houston, Texas. They will have to travel to Jacksonville, Florida, which obviously is not far from Miami, Florida. And they will have to travel to Tennessee, which is not far from Florida. I don't understand it. I really don't. Yeah, the division is already clinched. Brent says, I mean, we have one of the top 5 organizations, and other teams are wanting our upper level assistance to try and replicate the process that is working for the Lions. All those clubs were from the original AFL. Yeah, but it just, listen, it's, the math ain't mathin'. How am I the only team in the AFC East, which is a hot weather team, and I have to travel to cold weather places every year? It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. Like, I'm not a Dolphins fan by any stretch of the word, but I just feel like they're getting a raw deal. Pause. Like, why am I expected as a Floridian to go to New York, New Jersey, and damn Boston? That's not right. This is not right. They need to realign those things. It makes zero sense. Zero sense at all. Because Miami is not. When is the last time? Hold on. This is a question I gotta ask. Okay, when's the last time Miami Dolphins won the AFC East? It says, however, this success in 2008 proved to be an outlier during this period in the franchise's history to date. It is the last season the Dolphins won the AFC East. Okay, now, here's another question. (2008), almost 20 years. Okay. How many times? No, it says 13 times, which is crazy. Hold on. All right, so this is going back. Let me count. It's at 2023 right now, right? So let's see. So 2008, we see Miami. 2000, we see Miami at 11-5. 1994, we see Miami. So what am I at? 3 now. 92 was Miami. 4. Dang. Hold on. Okay, it might be 13 because from 81 to 85, it was Miami. Yeah, I just feel like they need to change it. You know, they haven't won it since 2008. and it's a disadvantage that they have. No, you wouldn't have to realign the entire NFL. You would swap two teams. You would swap out Indianapolis and Miami. That's it. Just those two teams. Because Indianapolis makes more sense for it's closer to Buffalo, New York, and I said Buffalo, New York. Yeah, Buffalo, New Jersey, and New England. Lone Spoon says, if I was the head coach of Miami when I had cold weather games, I would go right after our last game, rent a field outside and practice all week outside. But you're right. That's unfair. Right? Yeah, I know they went 16-0 and 07. What do you mean facts are facts? What are we talking about? You're not talking about my argument. You're talking about the Patriots. That's something completely different. All right. Later, Just a Fan, we will see you hopefully during the watch party. But if not during the watch party, then we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend, my friend. All right. So let's wrap this up. Talking about the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears they're checked out mentally, but I do not believe that the Chicago Bears are simply going to roll over and die. There is a sense of pride. They just got a lot of stuff going on, man. They have a lot of stuff going on. You have people in that locker room that have a sense of pride. And then you have people in the locker room or who don't have a sense of pride. So it's obviously, you've got competing arguments going on there. I feel like the defense has not given up, but I feel like just like the same way I feel about Quay Walker is the way I feel about Tyreek Stevenson. Tyreek Stevenson he's an idiot, okay? And I don't often throw that around, okay? I don't like to call players out of their names, but Tyreek Stevenson might actually have a screw loose. Tyreek Stevenson, if you guys don't remember, is the player that during a Hail Mary in Washington was taunting the fans. Didn't realize that the play had started. Once he realizes the play has started, he turns around, runs back into the play, and tips the football into the waiting hands of Noah Brown to lose them the football game. Had he not tipped the football, I don't think that Noah Brown catches it. So I feel like if he was standing off jawing with the fans, he should have just kept standing over there. Just keep standing over there. Take yourself out of the game. Go stand on the sidelines. It doesn't matter. You're not doing anything to help your team. Then, after this situation, when he was caught on camera doing these things, full replay, caught in 4K, as the people say these days, all the way in 4K, 8K, because it was the NFL cameras. Actually, it wasn't the NFL cameras that caught him. It was the fan video. Then when Matt Eberflus tries to discipline him and tells him that he's not going to be he's going to be not starting for the first quarter or whatever, he storms out of practice as if he shouldn't have been disciplined. I apologize, man. What you want from me? Okay. Then in Detroit, Tyreek Stevenson gets all of the JMO haters Up in arms. See, I told you he was a thug. See, I told you he would never learn. See, I told you he was this. I told you he was that. He had that gun. He got suspended. He's a gambler. He got injured. He's a bad person, bad human being. Forget the fact that he was over there handing out turkeys on Thanksgiving. Forget the fact that he was giving coats away at, collecting coats, for the, the winter coat drive. Forget all this stuff that he's done in the community. He's a bad person because he hangs out at Coney Island at 1 a.m. All those guys, right? They were all riled up. And then come to find out, Tyreek Stevenson tripped the man when he was going out of bounds. The NFL saw that and fined him damn near $20,000. Did they fine Jameson Williams? No. Jameson Williams got a personal foul penalty for that, right? Unsportsmanlike conduct, threw the ball in his face. Didn't get fined for it. You get fined for unsportsmanlike penalties. Did you know that? You get a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, and you will get an envelope in your locker telling you have a fine that you have to pay. Jameson Williams didn't get a fine. That was Tyreek Stevenson. Now, in this game, Tyreek Stevenson, and I get this part, this is not an indictment on Tyreek Stevenson like everything else that I have said, but Tyreek Stevenson picked off a ball on 4th down, which cost his team 15 to 20 yards of field position. An offense that couldn't get anything going, you finally get an interception, or you finally make a play on 4th down. Every DB, I used to be a corner. Okay, I used to be a corner and a running back. Played some safety as well. Played a lot of different positions. But anyway, football player. I understand as a DB, you see that thing coming at you, you're going to catch it. That's your first instinct. Should he have knocked it down? Yes. He should have just knocked it down, and then they take over on downs 15, 20 yards up the field. That just kind of goes to his awareness on the field and his mental makeup. He didn't have the awareness to make a play for his team because he's so invested in hurting his team. Oh, by the way, down 10, he's mimicking the Skol chant in Minnesota. Up 10 is what I said? No. I didn't say up 10. I said down 10. Again, you haven't learned from anything that you've done. You haven't learned to stop talking to the fans and stop caring what's going on off the field because you did that during the Hail Mary in Washington. Now you're mimicking the Skol chant down 10. Why are you not focused on the game out there on the field? Why do you care about what's going on behind you? So here's the thing. Be ready for Tyreek Stevenson against Jameson Williams on Sunday. What will Tyreek Stevenson do? Because we know J-Mo's not going to do anything, right? J-Mo was just reacting to being tripped. J-Mo was not inciting anything. J-Mo wasn't crashing out. He tripped him, and then he wanted to talk as he was running off the sideline, so he flipped the ball into his face. Now, he didn't aim at his face, but that's what he did. So watch for that matchup and see what kind of flags that will bear or whatever the case may be, because whoever's in that building and who's responsible for talking to Tyreek Stevenson about his immaturity, what up, though, Greasy Monkey? He ain't talking. He's not doing his job. If he's talking, Tyreek's just not taking it. So they kind of need to maybe bench him, but I don't want them to bench him because I want him to crash out in the field and do something stupid. The defense as a whole is not. So here's why the Chicago Bears defense is having problems. There's no leadership on that side of the football. Okay? And I'm pointing these things out as reasons that the Detroit Lions should be able to beat them. I know it's a divisional opponent and you can never count them out, but these are things that the Chicago Bears do not do well. I'm watching that game and I saw Jonathan Owens, Mr. Simone Biles, make a tackle on a third down, which clearly was not setting up a fourth down, right? So the man got the first down. He reached the ball across. It was clear on the replay. Jonathan Owens gets up and starts doing this little dance. What are you celebrating? You didn't stop him short of the marker. It was a clear first down. What's your celebration? When they were getting their teeth kicked in San Francisco, they got a late interception by Jonathan Owens, Mr. Simone Biles, and they run down to the end zone celebrating that you lost 38-13. What are you celebrating? And it was like half of the defense went and half of the defense didn't go. That's the fracture I'm talking about. Half of the defense went, half of the defense had sense. And they're like, bro, we're down. They got 38. What are you doing? Conversely, last week, when we were getting our teeth kicked in against the Bills, Amon-Ra St. Brown gets a 70-yard touchdown, or was it 66-yard touchdown, and doesn't celebrate. He just goes to the sideline. Now then we find out that he was sick. He had food poisoning the night before the game or whatever. But I don't think that's why he didn't celebrate. Didn't celebrate because we were losing. You're losing, you come back. Jameson Williams did not celebrate at the end of the NFC Championship game when he scored the touchdown because we needed to get an onside kick. We needed to get it back. He wasn't there celebrating in the end zone. Chicago Bears, that defense, they just don't understand it. Roma Dunze, again, same thing. Dancing in the end zone, being down 38-7. Like you caught a touchdown pass, you're down 38-7 or whatever it was at the time. You're dancing. The Chicago Bears have no leadership. They don't. So Detroit Lions cannot afford to lose a game to a team that has no leadership. They've got plenty of fight, but they have no leadership. The locker room is fractured. You've got a head coach that's in over his head. You've got all of these things. The Detroit Lions should expect to beat I was about to say Minnesota Vikings. They should expect to beat the Chicago Bears pretty handedly. And also, they need the game. We win out. We have the number one seed. We get that bye that everyone is coveting that we need. We need the bye because we got a whole bevy of injuries. So I don't expect anything less than a Detroit Lions victory on Sunday. I do not care that it's a divisional opponent. I'm not picking a blowout, but as I said, I will double down. I'm gonna tweak my score prediction because my score prediction was just a little bit weird, right? I said this, let them go 30-12, just like they did in Minnesota. I'm gonna keep the crux of that, but I'm gonna add 1 point to each. 31 Detroit Lions, 13 Chicago Bears. And that is my score prediction. After I get to your comments, we will get on up out of here. What's on 6 Mile TaylorMade? Lone Spoon says, he hangs at the Coney. Okay. In the hood. Yeah. He's a bad person. He said, I was thinking American Coney Island. Uh, Taylor May says, yeah, the Bears have a lot of youth on defense. Greasy Monkey says, kind of hoping their interim coach has the same clock management skills as Eberflus. Um, if they show up the way that they've shown up the 2 games that Thomas Brown has coached them, I don't expect anything. I don't even expect to see clock management having anything to do with the game, right? This, again, you can't say it should be a blowout because the Detroit Lions have had difficulties at Soldier Field, but this team, they just got too much going on. There's too much going against them, and I don't expect too much from them. But we'll see. It's a divisional game. They have nothing to play for. They could play spoiler, and everybody goes, well, the Lions didn't have anything to play for last or the year before last when they went into Lambeau and beat the Packers. The Lions they were going somewhere, and they needed to finish that season out strong because it propelled them into the NFC Championship game the next season. So they needed that to happen. The Chicago Bears are already talking about what they're going to do in the offseason and going on vacation. So at this point, I've got no faith in the Bears. The receivers are dropping footballs. It's just a mess. It's a mess over there. So predicting Lions BTA. I mean, 31-13. Yeah, I guess that's some BTA. I guess it is. So I'm predicting BTA. All right. All right, guys. I appreciate you once again for hanging out, stopping by. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share the stream. Let everybody know that they should be subscribing. They should be listening. If not watching, just listen at least to the Motor City Cats, because you know what? We back at it. Came to give you stats, not static. Whatever you do, I cannot tell you what to do, but if you want to take my advice, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And we are out. If you are going to be around for the game, make sure you come through to the watch party, and the watch party will be at the same time as the game. I don't have to tell you when that's going to be, right? So make sure you come through, smash like buttons, hang out. Let's talk about the game. Hopefully it's going to be a pretty boring game with a lot of scoring from the Detroit Lions, like the Tennessee Titans game. Who knows? Yeah, it is a divisional game. I can't say that, but I'm just going to put that out there. But make sure you guys come through, smash like button, share, subscribe, and we are out.